environment, and then I'm sure Steve is always interested. Steve Hargadon from Classroom 2.0. This is how I ended up in this room with him, so he helped out. So maybe he can help you out too. Hello, we're starting to get more people coming into the room. I noticed a name I'm very familiar with, Naleen, and we also have. I wanted to say that if you look down below where you're chatting, there's a send to link, and just make sure that the link is saying send to this room, and then all of your comments will go to everybody in this room. Oh, there we're getting hello. Sarah came in, and we have Naleen. And if you can spend a moment when you come in and just post in the chat area where you're coming in from. So far we have people from the United States. We have 2 people from Sri Lanka, myself and Naleen. And I believe we have Bernie from North Bay, Sarah from New Jersey. I am told that the group that's from Nipissing University has been delayed, and they're not in the room just yet. They're coming to the conference, to this webinar. Although it's a laptop school, I believe that they're going to be projecting it onto a screen, and so some people will be using their laptops, and others will be using will just listen from the large screen in the room. We are expecting 30 students, but I'll give them about 3 more minutes, and then we'll start with who we have and go from there. Hi, R. Mac, who just came in. If you want, you can also, if you're planning to and you would like to use audio, it's always a good idea in Illuminate to go up to the tools area, go down to audio, and test out your audio setup wizard. And that'll walk you through to make sure that your mic is working properly. Okay, I'm happy to see people filling in. We have a little timer up. Can everybody see the timer? I'm just curious. It says on the timer 1 minute and 30 seconds left, so I guess my computer time's a little early. Did anybody want to say hello? You can just put up your hand and come on. We'll give you the mic.
Thanks, Sue. I'm interested in being in the webinar with you people. I'm new to e-learning. I've been doing it for about 5 months, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what people are doing to increase the effectiveness of it. And for me, I'm dealing with a lot of at-risk students, how I can connect with them through e-learning or through online activities. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm calling from North Bay. It's a beautiful day here. Lots of fresh snow, -11. And as I said earlier, I'm going to go snowmobiling as soon as this is over. So it's great to be here. Thanks for the mic, Sue.
Okay, and with that, we'll get started. We'll have to let the live audience catch up, I believe, because you never know with the speakers. They have a speaker and then they're coming into the room, so maybe the speaker's speaking a little longer. But I know I'm pretty tight on time, so we'll go with what we have. I'm told Paul is saying he's our man on the street for in the IT support team, and he's telling me there's 11 people in the room, so let's get started. And as you can see, we have two people helping us out here. We have Paul Soffit from the I Teach support area at Nipissing University, and I'm very, very pleased to have Steve Hargadon of Classroom 2.0 helping us out. And he's a master with Illuminate, and also providing support to many teachers who are willing to try out different Web 2.0. I have to say I'm not the greatest in webinar presenting and multitasking, so if you're, I'll try my best to watch the chat area, but I also have asked that Paul and Steve sort of keep an eye there for me too, so because I might just get carried away on the slides. Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody for coming, and I'm going to pass it over to Steve to talk a little bit about Illuminate, and because I think we have a few new people with Illuminate, and he's going to give a little run through about the interface that we're all going to be using. So, Steve.
Hi, and welcome everyone. Fun to be here with you. I thought I'd give you a quick overview of the Illuminate session. For those who are sitting in the live room, this won't matter to you, but those of you who've come in through Illuminate might want to know a little bit about how to interact in this environment. We haven't given you the microphone by default, but if at some point in time Susan asks a question and you'd like to answer, there is a little hand icon with a green up arrow at the bottom of your participant box, and if you click on that, and you're certainly welcome to try, it will create a queue of people who are interested in speaking. You can put your hand down by clicking that same icon, which is now changed to having a red arrow down after you've clicked it up. If you are happy with something that's been said, there's a little happy face emoticon there, and you can click on that. You can clap. Of course, we won't need to use the thumbs down, but that's available, or the I'm confused. If you use the I'm confused, I'll figure that you're having trouble with Illuminate, and I'll come help you. If you think that you might want to take the mic, you can go up to the top where you see the Tools option, and click on Audio and run the Audio Setup Wizard, and that will just make sure that your mic is configured correctly. There are some icons at the top of your screen that we'll use for polling, and we'll tell you about them at the time, but you can see a green check and a red X. And if Susan's asking a yes/no question and wants you to reply with those, that's where you click them. If I click on the green check, you'll see a green check next to my name. If I click on the red X, it becomes an X. I can click it off. And when you do want to speak, there is a button at the bottom of your screen in the audio section where you click that button to turn your mic on. We can give you the capability to use the mic, but you have to push that button to actually start speaking. So we're glad to have you here. If you are interested in Illuminate, Illuminate does have a great 3 for free program called vRoom, and you can find out more about that at illuminate.com, www.illuminate.com. We want to thank them for being thoughtful sponsors of these events, these kind of events. And if you'd like, I'm going to give you right now the ability to write on the whiteboard. I'm just giving you that. You'll have seen a little pen or pencil pop up next to your name in the participant area, and over by the whiteboard, if you click the wand with the bright red ending, that wand allows you to make a mark as to where you are in the world. So I've just made a mark for California, which is where I am, and feel free to let everybody know where you are. And you can also put your name and location in the chat area, and sometimes it's fun to know what time it is and what the temperature is. Susan, have I covered everything you wanted me to cover?
Yes, thank you very much. So, we can see from the map we've got a few people all across the world. I'll put my little icon on. I'm coming to you from Sri Lanka. I'm using a hotel wireless system, so I'm hoping that there's not a lot of people on the right now. It's it's 7:45 p.m. here in Sri Lanka. And we also have Nalin coming to us, coming here from Sri Lanka too. So we're both in the evening time. So we'll continue on now. Here's our first activity. You're still going to get a chance to use the little icons that you were using on the map, and I'm just trying to get an idea of where the audience is coming from. So I've put if you could indicate in the box your positive response or your negative response to those questions, I'd really appreciate it. You can spend some time right now to do that. For the people who are in the group room and not on a computer, what you might do is just share with Paul where your answers to those questions, and then he can put them in. Seeing people are finding all kinds of innovative ways to put their mark on. This is good. The Facebook website, I just got an invite from my nephew that he suggested that I get a Facebook website. I've been staying off Facebook, and I've been trying not to go too deep in Second Life, but I know those are on the horizon for me. Okay, so we get an idea. We have people right across the board, really, from the blue to the yellow. So that gives me a good idea. Thanks a lot. Okay, so in a nutshell, what if, in a glance, you could get an idea of what I'm going to talk about today? Imagine that you could just almost instantaneously get a good idea of what I'm talking about. And there it is. You can. This is the first Web 2.0 application that I wanted to bring up. It's called Wordle, and this isn't actually my presentation. Wordle works with text and not audio, but I wanted to bring this up just to sort of point to some useful uses of technology and Web 2.0. So here we have Wordle.net is where you get this little tool. Technology. It's technology to assist in the analysis of information, and I really think that this is important because we're getting more and more information thrown at us, and if we can use technology to harness the technology to get us to understand the information better, then to me that's a good use of technology. So that is one example. We're going to try Wordle live demo, and Paul is going to help us out here. We're also going to use another feature of the Illuminate board, and what I'm going to ask Paul to do is that have everybody look down at the bottom of the chat area. It says send to, and then everybody should have this room. Well, I'd like you to select there, and you're going to send to Paul Soppet. You should see his name. If you don't,
Susan,
okay. You might not see him. You can send. Oh, we've lost him. Okay. You can send to. We'll try this. Well, in fact, maybe I can. Can I ask who has used Wordle before? Can somebody post in the chat area? Oh, okay. Maybe Paul is back now. There he is. Okay. Okay. So if you look and send to, click on Paul, everybody, and answer this question. Answer the question that why do some teachers easily take to technology while others resist? What are your thoughts on that? And what I'm going to get Paul to do is gather everybody's answers and show us a Wordle demo of the answers. Okay, so if you can just send your answers to Paul, and then just remember to set it back to the entire room after you've done that, because otherwise you'll just be sending Paul little chat messages. I'm sure he won't mind, but we might the rest of us want to hear that too. Okay, so just think about, why do some teachers easily take to technology while others resist? There isn't a right or wrong answer, and it is a question that I'm constantly mulling about. So while that's happening, we'll talk a little bit more about applications for Wordle in education. Here we have a teacher who regularly goes to Amazon, and she selects all of the text from the Amazon reviews, and puts it into Wordle, puts it up, and the students now you do a free write for what they think the book is going to be about. I thought that this was a really effective use of Wordle, and then afterwards she hands out the books, and they get to see what it's about. The other thing, another teacher uses the spelling list from the textbooks, and students create pictures using those spelling words. So she's not using it as an information analysis, but to have the students use the words in a different way. Another teacher from the Catholic school system was saying that they might take a scripture and create and print out of a scripture, use the Wordle. Now, a little thing that I'd like you to think about is how you might use the Wordle in your class. And you can either respond to the whole team, to the whole group in this room, or you can, I put a little spot for you here to also put your messages. So if you like the whiteboard area, you can post there, or if you want to also put in the chat area. So what are some of the ideas that come to mind, or some of you might have already used Wordle? And I'll just give you a few minutes to participate. Oh, looks like we might need some tools for adding. You should have a little A that you can add your information to. And I'm just looking at the results as we're bringing them in. And Deb will get it fixed about adding to the whiteboard. Okay, and also Paul, poor Paul, he's going to be doing lots of different things. I've given Paul a page that has all the links for today, so he might be posting them in there every once in a while. So there are some links that where you can get more ideas for how to how Wordle might be used. Okay, and now I want to talk a little bit about Web 2.0, since there's your definition from Wikipedia. Web 2.0 describes the changing trends in the use of World Wide Web technology and creativity, communication, secure information sharing, collaboration, and functionality of the web. Now, the key words. This is my own Wordle. I just did it myself. So, but those are the key words, and those are to me, when you hear the term Web 2.0, these are the things that we're talking about. And sometimes you hear it being called the read-write web, and being different than Web 1.0, where it was mostly just everybody going out there and gathering information and reading it. But now there's so much more collaboration writing the people are producing. So just a little bit about the term. I'm going to be using this E²D method in the presentation. And for E²D, D, it's my own little term here. I'm going to explain, show a few examples, and then I'm planning to have everybody do something. So we should have an active presentation. Hopefully, you're not going to fall asleep and you'll have enough multitasking to keep your fingers nimble. Okay, so one of the points is that Web 2.0 equals crowdsourcing is a term you hear, and it's really getting the information from the crowds. How many of you, I'm wondering, have come here from notices in Twitter? Has anybody come here, they heard a notice or they were retweeted? RT would be the term. This is there's a few people have come from Twitter. I am amazed at, as an educator, how much Twitter has become a part of my personal learning network. It's excellent for professional development. Now, we got a question there. What is Twitter? Twitter is a way for people to quickly communicate messages. But what's a little deceiving about Twitter is if you go to their website, www or 3ws.twitter.com, is it says, "What are you doing today?" And that's a little deceiving because it's so much more than what you're doing today. It's really people just posting tiny, you can only put in, I think, 150 words, and in this little box, and you could explain what you're doing today, but often how it's being used is that it's you're getting people to talk about their activities. Okay, wait a minute. Paul is missing his file. I will. That way you can get the messages easier. So just a minute. And maybe if we have while I'm doing this, if we could have somebody who's very familiar with Twitter jump on and just talk a little bit about Twitter, that would be great.
So I'll jump in and fill the empty space here. This is Steve. So Twitter is what's called microblogging. And it's a way of sending messages up to 140 characters that go on sort of a mini blog, your mini blog of messages. So you could say what you're doing, what are you doing today, but you could also say I'm going into the session starting at 9 a.m. and here's a link, or I'm watching the inaugural address and like it or don't like it. There are lots of ways, lots of things that you can communicate in Twitter. What's interesting about Twitter is it combines both the act of blogging and the act of microblogging and the act of watching other people's blogs. So it has built into it what we call an aggregator or a reader, your ability to follow other people. So you can follow people and people can follow you. So it's an instant messaging service of sorts that allows you to decide what people you want to read messages from, and they can decide if they want to read messages from you. Does that help at all?
Thanks, Steve. And the file's gone to Paul, so hopefully he'll be able to give you a few links. Also, I think there's a few video links in there too. So, so now, what you're seeing here is the Twitter page, and the Twitter page is showing the items that I wrote out to people. So this is how I'm communicating with others. What's very powerful though about Twitter is it's really a stream of consciousness, I find, from other. I follow a lot of educators, so it's a stream of consciousness from other educators. For instance, you get an idea of people who are like you and what they're thinking of, and the problems they're grappling with, and the issues that might be coming their way, and also the give and take. You realize that there are an awful lot of people in the education world that are freely willing to give a lot of information. So I have been really amazed by Twitter. What I needed, though, when I first started, I didn't quite get it. But it really, you really need a critical mass, and I also found that I needed a Twitter client, and this client that I'm using is Twirl. You might also use something called TweetDeck, and then it's just a stream coming in to your computer. It's not something that you would use with students, but I will show you. There is one link that Paul can share. Where somebody was suggesting that they do Twitter book reports. So the educational applications are more, I find, for professional development. We're in a very tough time right now trying to keep up with all these resources flying our way. And this way you're getting resources from a filtered group of people that is your own filter. You have decided that these people are the people that you want to give the information to. If you think about, there's Twitter, which is the website, and then you join this website. But the Twitter, when I said a client, it's actually a little mini program that you're going to put on your computer. And so you install this little mini program. If you're using Skype, it would be like installing Skype. There's a lot of little programs that are going to. It's like a mini browser, and it's only taking in feeds from people who you have joined. And as they comment on something or they want to share something, you will see the information come through. So that's the Twitter client. Oops. Sorry, little flip there. Okay, so some of the education, find resources. What I often do with I'm using this application, this Twirl application, is I will go in and use the search function. You can also get a search off of the Twitter page and search for resources that way within Twitter, because they'll be very up to date. The people who are on Twitter are usually advanced. Well, not sorry, I shouldn't say that. Are usually they're actively engaged in education and technology, and they're trying different things out. So their information, it's good to try and connect with them. So I use the search in Twitter a lot. And then there was one thing you might want to try is the Twitter. This person was suggesting to try Twitter book reports. Now, why would you do a book report using Twitter? One of the things that was suggested is that they're very small, short. You have to really think about your message because you only have so many characters to use. The other thing, there's also if you're an English teacher, you might decide that you could use Twitter as an environment for presenting a role play of what's happened in a textbook or in a story like Romeo and Juliet, all the different characters communicating back and forth. So anyway, it's an idea for sure. If anybody tries it, I'd love if you add me to your Twitter role and let me know how it goes in your class. Crowdsourcing, an extension of the idea of using the people around you to feed you information is this idea of Google Lit Trips are one of them. And if I could get Paul to post that that link, and also there's the history tours. And what you're doing here is somebody has gone out and created these mini tours linked to specific historical events, or in the case of literature, specific historical or with literature textbooks or what have you. So then you can take them and either use them in your class, or the other thing is always to think about sharing, is use it, add to it, and then put it back in the environment. Okay, so we're going to try another little activity where you can you get to do the do part, and there's this this link here that I'd like you to go to and post in the words. Well, I'm using a term called mashup, because what this is there's a website called Flickr where people can post their images, and if they post an image with a letter or with a number, then they can also tag it, so they can put a little label on it saying that it's that it's a 2 or a 1 or what have you. And this gentleman, Eric Kastner, has created a little program that puts the images and a PHP program together, and then you can have little words that are just a little more interesting. It's really one of those enhancing activities. It wouldn't necessarily, I don't think it has a strong pedagogical need in the classroom, but sometimes just motivating students to look at things can help. Oops, just a minute. Okay, then one of the big, another for crowdsourcing is you think of a way that you can get a whole bunch of people to tackle a huge problem. And this Wikimapia is one way that that can happen. They're taking a wiki, which is a place where everybody can post, and they're taking a map, and now they're putting those two things together, and so somebody has created a way for people to post information onto the maps. And I believe I have a link. Just a minute, I'll go get the link for you, where you can zoom right into where I am in Sri Lanka.
Susan, we weren't able to get to that link for the Flickr images of the letters. Is it possible that URL is incorrect?
There's a chance I will get it then. Okay, let's just go back there. Oh, Maureen says she got there. Maureen, can you... I'm just going to try copying her.
Maureen, I just tried the link that you posted and it didn't work for me either. Did you do something special?
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Deb, yours seems to be working okay. .net. Okay. Anyway, you get the idea that it's again somebody else has made this program, and now we can use it. We're also using all of the. It's unimaginable how many Flickr images are being used that have created it. As Bernie says, it's one of those cool things. But and sometimes you just need it. You might need to jazz up a slide or something to make maybe math look a little more interesting or something. So you might want to use that. So Web 2.0, we talk about collaboration. One of the best ways that I found is social bookmarking. And if I can just get people to put a check mark beside their name in the go up to the top of the screen, up to the top of your screen, and there's a check mark and an X. And if you can just let me know whether you are using social bookmarking. A little check mark would say that you are, and an X would say that you're not. If you are using it, we'd really appreciate if you could post what social bookmarking tools you're using. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about social bookmarking. It really is before we came to Web 2.0, everybody was adding favorites and just in their own little screens on their computers, and then they would click it and it's saved for them, only for them. Now with social bookmarking, we're talking again about sharing. We have people going out and booking their sites and sharing their bookings. And so it looks like most people, maybe I think, Steve, we still have people sharing, but so we're just going to get a printout or a showing of what the people have said, so that we get an idea of where people are with social bookmarking. I started off with Delicious, and I still use Delicious. If I really need something specific, I often will go into social bookmarking sites and search there before I search on Google, because there I'm using the power of the crowd. And especially there, I get more information and more specific information if I search in social bookmarking site. Now I'll just Paul, can I get you to put the Digo and sites in the screen in the chat area? Okay. And Steve, can we just see do we get a graph of all of those, of the answers? There we go. Okay, so the majority of people are not using social bookmarking, and we have a few people who have been. So as you can see, most people, there's a few people using IP bookmarks, and then most of the people are using Delicious or Digo. And I'm just going to go a little bit into Digo, because Delicious was there first, and we used it a lot. But now there is a movement, I find, more towards Digo. And what Digo has taken the social bookmarking and now really created community around it. There's areas where you can have groups, so you can look at a very specific area content and then invite people along to come and share in that area with you. You could also You get information about who else has shared the links, and you also get, well, with both Delicious and Diigo, you get notices in your email of when somebody bookmarks, if they're part of your group, or if you've subscribed. You can go in and say, I want to follow this person. They are in the same area as I am, so I would like to follow them and sort of again get an idea of how they go about their teacherly work. The other really big thing about Diigo is that it adds additional features that Delicious doesn't. One thing that you can do is highlight a web page. So when you're working, if you're thinking about showing students websites, Diigo can be very, very powerful because you can highlight the information on the web page. Nobody else can see it. You can make it private just for you, or you can have others. If you're in a group, everybody can see the highlights. Also, part of the highlights, it allows you that you can add notes to the web pages. So you can not only highlight it, but you can say, this is a really good point, or I don't really agree with this point. And anytime you go to that page, then you have access to the notes. Then down here, I'm showing, this is again a very powerful use for classrooms, is that you have the ability to use web slides. And what you can think about is that, think about all those favorites in your on your computer, and if you wanted to go into a class and show a group of them. Well, this web slides, which is a part of Diigo, lets you go through and see all of those links one after another, and it automatically creates a little presentation. And you can see this. I'm showing the presentation tools here. You can see the different web pages that I have linked here, and I believe I have a link where you can go and see one that I have created. So let me just try and grab them. So if you want to see what a slideshow looks like, you can go to that link, and you will see a bunch of a grouping that I've put together for a project that I'm working on. There is a question coming in, is there a way to import Delicious bookmarks into Diigo? And I don't have the answer to that, but maybe we can throw that back out to the group and see if anybody else has the answer. Yes, we're getting a whole bunch. Don't you just love crowds? Okay, so you can. Unfortunately, in this presentation, I don't have the time to go through the actual hows. I just want to throw a bunch of ideas out there, and hopefully we will give you enough links that you can follow up later, or always send me an email or Twitter me. What? That sounds kind of rude, but you can get in touch with me, and I'd be happy. Now, what I'm going to do is hand this over to Steve to talk a little bit about Nings, which are to me a step beyond wikis. Wikis, if we think of Wikipedia, everybody can edit it, whereas with Nings, there's much more going on. And what I'd like to get Steve to talk a little bit about is, I have a few I'd like just to talk a little bit about starting up a Ning and why he did that, and then what he thinks Classroom 2.0 means to the educators in this very lively, vibrant community. So Steve, if I could ask you, and I have to say, everybody, that he's being put on the spot here.
I'm glad to be put on the spot. So what's interesting to me about what's taking place in the web as we move from, Susan, the Web 1.0 you've described to Web 2.0, where rather than a company building a site and putting content on it, that we go look at the content they've created, to creating a framework for participation. You know, Web 2.0 is really about creating a framework for participation. We go to Flickr to see photos that other users have put up. We go to, you know, MySpace, Facebook, any of these other applications, because they are a place where users have contributed content that we want to see. So if blogs were sort of the first way that was possible to do that, you know, they obviously were very significant, but they weren't that easy to figure out. And you could start one, but you weren't guaranteed of an audience. And then we moved to wikis, which basically are a web page with an edit button, and it became a little bit easier to contribute content to the web as a user. What's fascinating to me is that social networking sort of made that even one stage easier. You know, the popularity of MySpace and Facebook, I don't think are any accident. They are sites that make it really, really easy to get in and become a part of the conversation of the web, to contribute and to see other users' contributions. And so hopefully what Classroom 2.0 is it's built on the Ning platform, which is a service that allows you to create your own social network. Hopefully what it is a really easy way for educators to come in and kind of taste the experience of the Web 2.0 world, to be able to come in and look for conversations that are specifically around technology in the classroom, to post a question, to get answers, to contribute a line or two. You know, one of the hard things about blogging is this feeling you have to write something very significant and spend a lot of time writing it. Whereas in an environment like Classroom 2.0, you can just post a one-sentence answer to someone else's question, and you've been an active participant. So Classroom 2.0 started just under 2 years ago. It's got over 17,000 members now. I like to think of it as sort of an introductory site. With 17,000 people, it's kind of hard to feel like you know each one of them and be engaged, but hopefully it's a chance to come in, feel comfortable, get involved, and have some understanding of why this is such a powerful technology. How's that, Susan?
Thank you very much. And one thing that I realized, that because Nings are so easy to set up, that the tendency was originally for everybody just to go out and set up a Ning. But I think one thing that is really useful is if we find, like for instance, a site that's kind of comparable or doing something along the same lines as what of the Ning that you want to set up, then you might decide to put a group inside another. So here you, in Classroom 2.0, rather than starting up a new language learners group Ning, you might set up a group inside, and that brings everybody into a really nice, cozy environment, and you don't get the problem that sometimes happens where you are this one lonely person sitting waiting for other people to come and participate. The environment is already vibrant. Two other areas that you begin to realize that, is it crowdsourcing? Are you using the power of the crowd, or is it collaboration? Two sites that are really close to my heart are the .sub, where you have videos being translated, and you also have and then the open educational resources, where people are sharing their time. In the case of .sub, they're sharing their language and their time to translate websites. And I'll just paste in those two. Oh, great. Okay. And then the other one, open educational resources. So I just want to sort of drop those. I'm going to let you check them out on your own time. But they are two other areas where educators can find information The one thing about open educational resources is that you not only find content for maybe a classroom, but you again get to see how other educators are presenting information, are doing the teacherly thing, and so it's very good for feedback and for ourselves to get better at our profession, is to look around. So it's not just, oh, I don't really need any resources, but you also get ideas you also get other teaching ideas. Another area is for Web 2.0, you get a lot of activities that encourage creativity, and again, this one I just want you to we're not going to get a chance to try it out. I'm realizing that time is coming to an end here. But Animoto, if you think about this website is one where students before would do PowerPoint presentations, and if you've ever worked with students and their PowerPoint presentations, I always found it discouraging because the students began not to focus on the content and how well it was organized and is it good information that they're presenting, but rather than how many little different ways can they animate things, and they go off on the technology side. Well, what I like about Animoto is that they can still get that glitz, because students, it's a nice way for them to complete something. They get to use the technology, but it keeps them out of the technology one step further than focusing on PowerPoint and thinking about all those transitions and all those animations, because Animoto does the animations and the audio sharing for you. So the students can just go in and add their content and then ask Animoto to add the glitz. So it's just one of those additional sites that you might want to use with your students if you find that anytime you go into technology, they're spending more time on the technology than on the content. This might solve the problem. And I see Maureen has used it with her students. Just because of time, I'm going to I'm just going to finish up the slides, and then I'm hoping that maybe we can have a bit of a discussion as the time ends. Okay. So often you hear with Web 2.0 is this term RSS, and I should real simple syndication. And then people usually start talking about feed readers, etc., and it sounds really it can get crazy. Two things that there are some. If you need a way to read people's feeds, and what that is that you might have where you go to somebody's blog and you think, wow, this is really good. I want to know the next time that they put up a message, the next time that they do a posting, I want to know because I want to read their information. So rather than you going back and checking, the RSS, the Real Simple Syndication, allows you to sit at your computer and know when the person posts, because you'll get a message or it'll land in your reader. One thing I wanted to suggest that maybe you try, because what happened to me with I'm reading Durf's message true. Well, what happened to me was I ended up finding so many really good blogs that I plugged my reader with tons of information, and then I had the same problem where I just had massive things to read. So what I started to use more was Google Alerts. And Google Alerts allows me to put in those keywords that I like to follow. And now in my email, once a day, I can say, or even once a month, that I can decide that I only want to find out information on these things, and then it's very specific information. And I have been amazed at the content that comes through in my Google alerts. And so I get email coming in, and it has all the. I just identify keywords, and you can decide whether you want to follow it once a day, once a week, etc. But it's very. You can make it very, very specific. I'm being, okay, so you might not be able to get into that site right away. Another site that, again, it's using the same the same methodology, RSS, is, and this is mostly to the students at Nipissing University, is that when you're looking for a job in the next, what is it now, in the next 4 months, you might want to be aware of certain websites when they post new job offerings. And so you can add a little link onto a page that then you can track when the page changes. So job sites are very good for this because whenever somebody posts a new job, their website changes. Once it changes, then you get an email right into your email saying the page has changed, and that allows you to go and see what kind of jobs are available there. So just in the job hunt, you might decide change detection. I use it for sites like that I want to see if there's contracts going on, etc. The other alert type way. So this is where you're not just letting sort of the sea of bloggers decide what information you're going to read. You're now saying, no, I only want to read information about science education of worms or something. So those are your keywords, or maybe you only want to find videos of that. I was looking for videos particularly about Web 2.0. And so this is now new content coming over. It's not a search. It's like when somebody posts some new information, it'll come in the video alert. And just as we're coming to the end here, I wanted to encourage, and again, this is to the Nipissing University pre-service teachers and others who might be interested, is to start thinking about a personal learning network. And to me, in teaching, just because there's so much information coming through, and there's so much potential if we're collaborating with each other and sharing information, that way, if we start to think about this and growing such a network personally, then maybe then the whole entire profession is going to just get better and better. So what I'm suggesting, the little recipes, start with an easy web environment. We looked at Ning. I put 2 more up there, Wet Paint or Net Vibes. Mix in some RSS feeds, and you'll see that Wet Paint, Net Vibes, and Ning, they are all set up to easily allow you to get these feeds coming in. I talked earlier about getting them in email, but you can also get them on a website. Then I would say encourage others to participate in your environment, whether it be a group in Classroom 2.0, in Twitter. For the Nipissing students, I would strongly encourage that you keep in touch with all of your classmates after you finish, because they'll be really good support for you. And then collaborate, share, ask, respond. Do what you can to grow that environment. Now, I kind of zipped through there rather quickly. We do have a few minutes, though, to just open up the floor and chat a bit. So, but first, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who came. I'm really impressed. We had up to 30, I think 36 at some time in the chat area, and that's certainly a first for me to have so many people in a webinar. I'd especially like to thank the Infusion Conference at Nipissing University to sort of trying something new and being innovative and allowing me to participate from Sri Lanka. The Illuminate for providing the free space. Steve Hargadon, we couldn't have done this without you. Thank you very much. And of course, Paul, I'm very interested to talk with you afterwards about how things went over on the Nipissing side. So if anybody has any questions or things they want to share, I'd really love to have you come back to put your hand up. We'll give you the mic.
Hi. Listening to all this, it's fascinating to me, but my learning style must not be conducive to this environment because I keep trying, like the blogs and the forums and the name. I have difficult enough with just emailing people back and forth. So I'm wondering, what about a person with my lifestyle, not my lifestyle, but my learning style? How do I embrace this?
You know what? I'm hoping that other people in the room have some ideas for Deb, because one of the questions, and maybe we can ask Paul to come back if he was able to create his Wordle. Is maybe that's what you're hitting on, Deb, is why the technology isn't being picked up by some people. Is that the learning method is so different, and so what we need to do is find that key. And maybe somebody here has an answer. If you have a question or a suggestion, we'll go to maybe.
I still have the mic. See, I'm able to do things like Blackboard and Moodle. I'm able to take a class online, but it's this intense communication, maybe in written, that's just overwhelming.
I don't think that it has to do with the learning style per se. If you're hearing me, please write that in the chat so I know my mic is working. I'll wait and see. Yes, Marine hears me. Wonderful. I have 8th graders who cannot deal with the written environment, and I have 8th graders who cannot deal with the visual environment, and they're so ingrained in reading and writing that they just cannot tell a story through pictures. And I think it's not necessarily your learning environment. I think it's just the technology, being savvy. I think it's just learning things. And I'm certainly not anyone who knows anything. And if you think I do, you are genuinely fooled. But I've learned to make my way in this environment because I see the value of it. And I think that's probably what I don't know. I get a shot up now.
I wanted to speak to it because maybe back to what Susan said earlier when we asked about why teachers don't embrace technology, and I'm a tech integrator. But I keep trying to get into this virtual written world. It's like a maze to me, and it's just and I was reading impaired as a child. So I'm just kind of opening this up just to let you know or give you an insight into maybe a person who might not be so verbal as I am. The whole reading, writing world to me is what I think is my stumbling block. And so this is just an FYI to share.
Thanks, Deb. No, you bring up a good point, and I'm glad to have the discussion here, because it is really something that that needs to be addressed. And I'm also looking at the comments, and I'm thinking, you know, somebody said try not to drink from the fire hose, and if I look at the presentation that I put together, I tried to take a little bit of everything. So I actually have sprayed the fire hose on you. Now it's interesting that when you're putting together a webinar description, to me, it's you want to try and capture as much and make it as worthwhile, but for people. So maybe we who present on these topics can just focus a little bit more. Maybe that would help too. Anybody else have questions? Or I saw Bernie's hand up and then it went down.
Well, I just wanted to say, Sue, I agree with what Debbie's saying in terms of you know, reading and writing. Being an e-learning teacher, one thing my students struggle with is they need to be good readers and writers to interface with the whole e-learning environment. And what I'm seeing today are a number of tools I could use to make their experience more effective for them, more interesting for them, and catch their attention. So I'm right now even thinking of one particular student who are really struggling with to get them going, and I can see where we could use Wordle. We could use Wordle to get his attention. We could use the thing about I forget the name, where he types in his name and up comes a graphic representation of it. So I'm seeing this as a way to enhance what I'm trying to do with students. And I liked your point about going deep on just 1, 2, 3 things and getting them down really well, and then sticking with just traditional face-to-face relationships while teaching, and enhancing it with these really cool technologies.
Thanks, Bernie. Yeah, good points there. And I think we do have to have the staying power. Number one, my advice would be just focus in on like Bernie. Out of all the items I presented, he's kind of thinking about 2. So I think that's helpful. And then have some staying power. Try to make it work, and use your network to help you make it work. Really lean on that, because there's a lot of people out there who are willing to help and have made it work. So we have to find those connections. Now I think there's the Nipissing group. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have to continue on to another presentation. Is this so? Okay, well, we'll end it there, and no, not till 10:30. Oh, we still do have time for answering questions. Okay. Is there anybody else who has any question, or maybe wants me to go into something, any of the other items a little bit deeper?
I would just say to Deb and to anyone who's having trouble in any of these environments, get yourself one person to mentor you. To ask that one person you can ask questions of anytime, and connect with them either on Twitter. If you don't Twitter, on Skype. If you don't do that, email them. IM them. Just find one person.
Yes, that's a great idea, Durf, and we should we can, of course, I'd be willing to. Durf's done that. The idea of reaching out, but you can't really. It's hard to search on the net for the answers because there's so much information out there now. So it is nicer to have somebody take your hand and have that human touch. But there's lots of ways to get the human touch electronically. Durf, did you have a comment?
No, I think you're doing fine, Susan.
And sorry, I realize it's Mrs. Durf. And Bernie, I'll just give you the mic.
Thanks, Sue. The comment I wanted to make, or question really to ask, is one problem I face is technology being restricted at my school. So, for example, this morning it occurred to me I might just run into my school and do this conference from there. Not, disturb my family or anything. But then I realized I'm probably going to run into all kinds of restrictions, and it probably won't work. So I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that, or if anyone else has found a way to overcome the restrictions that my own IT department sort of puts there, and they have their reasons for doing it. But it causes problems for me. Does anybody have a solution or comments on that?
Hi, Bernie. One of the things you might do is go to the one of the ideas would be to go to your IT department and give them the sites that are restricted and ask them to unblock them and tell them why you need it. And maybe they're not going to do it carte blanche, but maybe they would do it for a day or a week or just something like that. I know I have to have a conversation with my IT department, and I think it's out of fear. And I know that on Will Richardson's site there was some conversation about the whole trying to get people to open up, but then also understanding the legal side of this that the districts face.
Yeah, those are good points, and I certainly will do that. I'll identify my recipe, so to speak, of what I want. I just find that it's kind of continuous and frustrating, but you're definitely right. I need to make a list, tell them what I want to do, and get them to act upon it. But it's a time-consuming, slow, frustrating process, but I haven't found another way. You're right. I got to give them a list and go from there.
I also think it's a list, but also we need more IT people to understand the education technology benefits. And although they know IT very well, we need them to come into these kind of environments and talk with teachers and see how others in other schools are using the different software and applications, etc., and maybe even encourage them through that kind of environment. We might be able to say to get them to talk with other IT departments that have opened it up, and you have to wonder, well, why do some IT departments open up and others don't? Well, so I really do believe that a lot of it is the conversation. We need to invite more and more people in. I often wonder if you have the education technology people who are talking in their echo chamber, and you have the IT people talking in their echo chamber, and we need to have as much mixing as possible of the different groups. Deb, did you have another comment? I'll give you the mic.
No, I'm sorry. I think I just had my
wind up
hand.
soon. That's okay. Okay, I think from what it sounds like, we have the Nipissing group just finishing up there, and I'm wondering, Paul, if there's any additional questions from the live group, and us virtual people. If there's any more questions here, we'll start to wrap this up. Oh, I think Paul informed me that he had a little bit of problems doing the Wordle. So maybe I will. What I'll do is I will post at least the comments we can get. We can get them from the chat, and I can post it in the Classroom 2.0 environment. And also, if you want me to send it your way, I'd be happy to. You can. You're welcome to email me. You can see my email there and on the screen. And or if you want to join up Twitter and add me to Twitter, that'll be fine. Steve is asking if that I'll start a little forum discussion. That's great, because then I will post the slides. We'll complete the Wordle and add that. So I think you can go to the Classroom 2.0 site, and if you're having trouble finding it, I think often we think to ourselves there's something wrong with us if we can't get through this stuff, and a lot of it is you have no idea how much support someone else beside you who's now zipping along received before they got to that stage. And we all have to realize that there's a lot of people out there willing to help, and in the long run, I think it'll be good for everyone. So thanks for coming, and we'll say bye-bye now. Okay, just so that everybody knows, we're going to close the room, and it's not so you'll be kicked out, I think, and then we can have the recording stop. Paul, are you still there?